Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Ali. I'm a junior doctor working in Cambridge, and today I'm joined by the lovely Francesco.
Hello.
Francesco has a YouTube channel called Keep Productive.
Keep Productive is mainly about productivity apps. So we review tons of software to help you make the best decision, whether you're a student, professional.
And in this video, we're going to be talking about 6 different categories of productivity apps for students. So we're going to be talking about flashcards, note-taking, handwritten note-taking, planning out and timetables and stuff, Pomodoro timers, and journals.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're talking
about. You nailed it, yeah.
Sick. Got it in one take. That was only one take. Okay, so let's start with flashcard software, and the main one that I used to use in my time as a medical student was Anki. Have you come across Anki before?
Yeah, it's quite a reliable one.
Quite a reliable one, yeah, fantastic. And people like Tim Ferriss wholeheartedly endorse the use of Anki for things like learning languages. Another one you could use is Quizlet. They both have the pros and cons. I think ultimately both Anki and Quizlet do pretty much exactly the same thing. I think Anki is probably a bit better for being able to input stuff very quickly because you can type really fast, you can use keyboard shortcuts, whereas Quizlet has a bit of a nicer interface. And one nice thing about Quizlet is that it's very easy to get other people's decks. And for example, within medicine, people will have made tons of decks for things like anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. Anki is a bit harder. You have to like download an Anki deck package, but it's again, they pretty much do the same thing. So once you've done a question, you see a flashcard, you recall the contents of that flashcard, because obviously active recall, the best way to learn, and then you can mark it as you want to see the card again, or it's good, and it just. The spaced repetition algorithm for Anki and also Quizlet is really good because it takes into account how difficult you find something and then lets you advance from there.
That's it. I think with Quizlet as well, the feature that I particularly love is, like you were mentioning, the sort of templates. People pre-create them. It just saves you a load of work, and you can pretty much go in and just copy. And then when you build that sort of comfortable experience, and you can actually go in and create your own ones, which is perfect.
Yeah, so that's flashcard software. Flashcard software is pretty fantastic for all students in general. Let's move on to the next category.
So the next category is note-taking. So I used Evernote. Evernote's a really popular resource for students. When I was in university, if I didn't necessarily have all the focus I needed to in a lecture, I just hit the audio recording button, and I found that really useful. You can also, like on this one, I was importing like diagrams, pictures, PowerPoints and PDFs as well that the teacher was sending over, and then I just had them all consolidated in one place. And I also use notebook titles to organize, like for example, like this one, ECN was apparently economics.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which I probably did listen in.
Yeah.
But it allowed me just to take notes, and also when I wanted to come back to notebooks for later, I could quite easily do that.
So I actually used Microsoft OneNote most when I was at university, and I pretty much used it to scan in all of my handwritten notes. And then, so for example, over here, this was a supervision we had on genitourinary/male pathology about different testicular tumors and renal cell carcinoma and all this stuff. So this was a supervision that one of our seniors, Christopher Sung, gave, and I've scanned in all my notes. And what I can do, if this will sync, is I can then elaborate on these using the fact that OneNote has an infinite horizontal canvas. I can make extra notes, I can screenshot bits from the internet, from different textbooks, shove them into my notes, and then I have this like big document that it's got my handwritten notes that I've taken in the lecture because that's what kept me awake, and then I can expand on it if I feel like it. To be honest, I don't really use OneNote anymore because I recently discovered Notion, and Notion is an app that you're an absolute expert on.
I'm a bit obsessed with it.
You're completely obsessed with it. Like if you search Notion on YouTube, every video that you find is pretty much from your channel.
Which is dangerous.
So I started watching your videos about Notion and realized, okay, I think this will revolutionize things for students. And now the way I use Notion, so for example, this is MRCP, the membership for the Royal College of Physicians. And I've got all my subjects, and what I do is I categorize everything within a subject into these toggle lists. So for example, I find it really useful to just fully break apart a whole subject just into a series of various different toggles, and that forces me to systematize it in my own head, but also lets me do things like add active recall questions before all my notes. But I'll talk much more about that, and we'll do a full deep dive into Notion on the video on your channel.
Yes.
Which will be coming out hopefully at the same time as this. So we'll put a link in the video description, and you can check that out to see it in much more detail if you're into that sort of thing. Okay, so our next category of apps is handwritten note-taking apps. And I've made a whole video about how I use Notability on my iPad Pro to take notes in medical school. And I still use that to this day. I use Notability to plan out all my videos, but also if I ever need to take notes, if I'm in a talk or in a lecture, it pretty much keeps me awake. I don't know about you. It's very easy to...
Yeah, it makes it a lot more fun as well because you can combine colors and highlights, so
yeah,
it's perfect.
And while taking notes as a method for studying, you know, the evidence shows that it's not very good, and I'll link to another video I've done talking about the evidence. I still think I still quite like taking notes in lectures, because purely for the reason that it keeps me awake. And it means that if I do want to sort of look up things at a later date, I can just note them down and then look them up later and turn them into flashcards, turn them into questions, that sort of thing.
Definitely.
So this is, for example, a look at my OSCE notes. So I would pretty much take things from various different places and I'd expand on them. So for example, Oxford System of Closed Stroke Classification, I screenshotted this from a lecture slide. This is a PDF from OSCEstop.com, which I have highlighted and expanded on. And I've just created this kind of master document where I've used so many resources, kind of taken photos of my physical notes, taken photos from courses that I've been to, so that I just create this master document. But I'm not doing it because taking the notes is useful. I'm doing it because it kept me awake in the lecture, and it gives me this single source of truth almost that I can then build my questions on. And I'll put a link to my OSCE Google spreadsheet where I had all these in question format. So actually here, for example, you can see, so I've got, you know, causes of, what are we talking about, Parkinsonism. So I've written for myself causes, management, MX, and end stage features of Parkinson's disease. So when I look at these notes, I'm not just reading through them, I'm asking myself all these questions and thinking, okay, do I actually know what the causes of Parkinsonism are? Do I actually know what the management is? That sort of stuff. But yeah, Notability is the one that I use for all my handwritten notes to this day. And even for like planning out videos, you know, a video about motivation, video about, you know, productivity. This is where I plan all this stuff. Because I just find it's really nice to write with the Apple Pencil.
Yeah. I was just saying I probably want to get one just for the sake of having that.
Well,
it's really incredible. Nice, yeah.
That's super, super legit.
So for the fourth category, we're going to talk about to-do list applications. One of my personal favorites is Todoist. I use this one as my daily task manager, so I tend to just plan ahead on what sort of tasks I've got coming on. So like today's like organize goals, tomorrow's like get some documentary edited and etc. And then smaller stuff. And you can organize in terms of projects. So I have two main simple ones, but if you were a student, you could have, for example, like one per module you're working on. You've also got labels as well, so if you wanted to create like a duration on it, so you want to set like 20 minutes per task, or for example, you want to associate it to like editing or writing or studying, then you can do that all in one.
So I've tried using so many different to-do list applications over the years. I think the one that I sort of used as a student was Wunderlist, and then I switched over to Things a few months ago. But actually now I don't really have a to-do list manager, and actually the one I used most often as a student to manage my time was actually Google Sheets. And I used my retrospective revision timetable for that, which I've done a video on, which will be linked up there somewhere. Essentially, I would, after revising a topic, after active recalling stuff in that topic, I would write down the date. So for example, here I did the respiratory examination on the 2nd of April, and then again on the 13th of April, and then again on the Friday before the exam. And if I was feeling pro, I would color code these based on how good I was at the subject at the time. So I found this as being a good kind of hybrid for actually having stuff to do, but so that each day I could decide what I wanted to do based on what I was weakest at. And the question I'd be asking myself every day is, what topic, if it came up in the exam tomorrow, would I be least happy about? And I would just kind of target my revision based on that. Because I tried doing to-do lists and other stuff like that, and I found that I was just A, not sticking to them, and B, like not really planning for stuff that what happened along the way, like, you know, might be going out one night with friends, or people might come over for board games, and it just kind of ended up...
It changes your whole schedule.
It does, yeah. So yeah, I use Google Sheets for that, but you know, I think so many people swear by to-do list applications, so you should probably try some of those out if you feel like it. Alright, so next on the list is apps for Pomodoro timers, and Pomodoro I think is Italian for tomato.
It is,
Italian,
yeah.
And a tomato timer is just like this method whereby you work for 25 minutes or something, and then you have a rest for 5 minutes, and then you repeat the process. And the main idea is that after 4 Pomodoros, then you take a longer half-an-hour break, for example. So when we were studying together, me and all my friends, we'd get together in the Emmanuel College Library, and we'd all do POMs together. We set up a little WhatsApp group called POMSOC, like Pomodoro Society, that's still running to this day, actually, like 5 years later, which is really good. And we used to do this thing where we'd start a 25-minute timer, we'd start a 25-minute timer, we'd do a tap on the table, which means that the timer is starting. And then when the timer would end, we would do another tap, and then everyone would kind of relax. And then we'd kind of whisper, chat for about 5 minutes or do our own thing. And then we go double tap, which means that the timer is going to start again. And this is just a really nice way to, make studying into these bite-sized chunks, and especially when doing it with friends. It was a good decent amount of banter when you're all pumming together doing different things.
Yeah, I like that as well, because the good thing is that you're all planning breaks at the same time, so you're not going to interrupt each other's flow when in terms of studying, and 25 minutes is not a long period of time, so that's quite nice, and 5 minutes is the perfect break time.
And in terms of what Forest actually does, what it does is that you plant a tree and then the tree grows, but if you go off the app on your phone, then the tree dies. So it's a way of forcing yourself to not go on your phone while studying, and I found that to be quite helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So the next category, we're going to be diving into journaling. Ali uses Day One, which is a really strong journal application. Maybe we want to dive into it?
Yeah, so Day One is just really good. It's very, very easy to input stuff into it. And I've got 3 different journals. I've got like a journal for, like a kind of daily journal, but I don't do it every day. I probably should do it every day. And it's really nice to look back through some of my old journals from when I was a student, and I, talk about some of the angst that I was feeling in third year and all this sort of stuff that I look back on and think, wow, I can't believe I was like that. But it's quite entertaining to read through. And I also have a journal for nice comments. So whenever I get a nice comment on Instagram or YouTube or something, I screenshot it and just share it to this journal. And if I'm feeling sad or anything, I just kind of browse through the nice comments folder. So that's how I use Day One for journaling. But you use actually a physical.
That's quite nice, actually. It's like reaffirming that, that's nice.
It's like wholesome and stuff.
Yeah. I use a physical journal. This is a Confidant Baron Fig. And I've been using these for maybe 2 or 3 years now. So I have 4 or 5 of these at home now, full. And I can go back like you did and just see what I was thinking. The reason why I like a physical journal is because sometimes the handwriting tells a bit of a story, and how you were, how you're feeling, and that's quite nice. So I look a bit crazy in this, but I tend to do it every 2 to 3 days, and it's mainly just how I feel and how I approach life.
Nice. And there's quite a lot of evidence behind journaling, journaling as a thing, and how even writing down a few things that you're grateful or thankful for each day does more to boost your personal happiness than, for example, doubling your salary. And we all work so hard to make money, and yet, it's simple things like just, being thankful for stuff in life that supposedly, according to the evidence at least, helps out.
100%.
So that was a look at 6 different categories of productivity sort of apps that we would recommend for students. We've got 2 more videos on your channel. One of them is going to be a deep dive into how I use Notion as a note-taking method for exam preparation, and another one is going to be about general productivity tips for students, where we're going to be having a little discussion.
We're going to probe your brain.
so hopefully that'll be good. That sounds weird. So hopefully that'll be good. We'll put links in the description below, and please do check out Francesco's channel, hit the subscribe button. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to this channel or to Francesco's channel, then please consider doing so. Oh, by the way, both of us have a podcast. You can find mine at notoverthinking.com.
And mine at Tools They Use podcast.
Tools They Use.
Tools They Use.
Tools They Use. Nice. Yeah.
We'll have to get you on.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Have a lovely day. And by the way, both of us have a podcast. Have you got a podcast?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Cool. Okay. So in 3, 2, 1, I'm going to press the Enter key, and this is going to be a sync point. 3, 2, 1.
For future Ali.
That'll be for future Ali, and I'll be so happy that I've done that. Okay, shall we go for it?
Yeah, let's go for it.